All right, what we're going to do with this video here today is discuss kind of like the halfway mark of the NBA season. We're going to take apart kind of like the Eastern Conference in this video. I'm going to do the same thing for the Western Conference too, but let's just focus on the Eastern Conference. I want to start first by talking about the teams that I think are basically your like play-in quality teams, teams that are kind of like in that, I don't know, like 7 to 10 range in terms of the standings. Not pictured here on the screen, but I think there's a couple teams worth watching and mentioning. First of all, holy crap, the Charlotte Hornets. Okay, I had no idea that this team was like that. All of a sudden, finding their way. Leading scorer, LaMelo Ball. Leading rebounder, leading scorer, I think, is Brandon Miller, actually. I think he has a higher scoring average than LaMelo Ball. Those guys kind of leading the way. Miles Bridges has been playing fantastic. Uh, Musa Diabate has been playing really good, kind of anchoring in the paint. He's a really good rebounder. I mean, they're winning games. I think at one point they ripped off 7 in a row or 8 in a row. I'm not sure about the streak, but it did end recently, and they can just start a new one if they want. They have become like a very fun team to root for, because they're basically coming from the basement. They're third in three-pointers made, and they're sixth in rebounding. And they're kind of been playing good offensively and playing pretty good defensively too, and that's how you win games. Man, I'm really hoping they continue their positive momentum in the second half of the year. We shall see how that plays out. The Miami Heat, also not pictured on here. That's an injury situation. Tyler Hero has missed tons of games. Norman Powell has missed games. Wiggins has missed games. Larson has missed games. Like, it's just a lot. And, like they're the type of team that doesn't really have much wiggle room. So when you're missing guys, it's going to really impact the ability for them to win. I like the team. I just think that it's going to be really hard for them to overcome even a single injury, especially to a notable offensive player like Tyler Hero. So I don't take them too seriously at this moment in time based on those things, but they'll be a problem for people in the playoffs, right? In a first round matchup or something like that, as long as they're healthy. But if they're not healthy, it's gonna be tough. All right, now the next thing I want to discuss, and they're again off the screen. I haven't gotten to the main teams. The Orlando Magic, in my opinion, have underachieved a little bit. And their record is like it's been like this for the last several years, but this team now has expectations, and I don't really like what I'm seeing per se. Whatever Jamal Mosley is selling, I don't think this team is buying anymore. I think you're probably seeing the most, uh, I don't know, distrust within the team than ever. Paolo's a nice player. The Wagner brothers are nice players. You brought in Jalen Suggs, and he's been an important player for your team. Um, they brought in Desmond Bain. Like they're trying to build this team and create this cohesive unit, but neither their offense nor their defense is as good as it's been the last couple of years. In fact, based on 2023-24 season and even last year, they were more competitive than they are now. In my opinion, you would see them winning more games against better teams. I'm not taking the Magic too seriously right now. Maybe they get things going and kind of clean things up, but again, these teams are on the edge. They have a lot to prove in order to kind of become legitimate playoff teams that can be disruptive. I kind of think the same thing about the Sixers. I don't take the Sixers seriously. As incredible as Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid are as talents, and more so Maxey, I think he's great. Embiid, he's that injury away from his season ending, and knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But let's just look at the history. Okay, so I don't trust the Sixers, and I think I'm pretty sure that there's several more games for suspension for Paul George for the substance abuse or whatever the hell he did. Um, Anyways, the Raptors are a nice surprise. They're a pretty good team. I think they could be a tough out in the playoffs. They could be a tough challenge. The Cavs acquiring James Harden and trading Darius Garland, that's the wild card. Who are the Cavs going to be in the second part of the season? More time to be familiar with their new roster, right? Newly constructed. You have guys like Schroeder coming off the bench to play point guard. Much of an upgrade over Lonzo Ball. Keon Ellis, who's coming in, good defensive player, can knock down a three. How does he kind of gel in the second unit? I like his potential. He's basically replacing DeAndre Hunter, who has done nothing all year, right? So you're playing with house money there. And then, of course, the James Harden trade. So far, so good. He's been clutch in clutch moments. He's delivered at the end of games. He's done exactly what he's supposed to do, come in alongside Donovan Mitchell and help carry the offense, right? And Mobley hasn't even really been playing, and all season the Cavs have been injured. We don't know who the Cavs are going to be yet. We'll find that out in the second half of the year. I think they're going to be a problem for any team in the Eastern Conference. I do. Not saying they're a lock to go to the NBA Finals, and I'm not saying they're a lock to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they are going to be a problem. They're going to make some really interesting series in the playoffs, so long as they're healthy, as it goes for any team. But we have yet to see the James Harden experience with Evan Mobley in the lineup, so what that looks like. And we should be seeing that very soon. The Knicks are a better team without Karl Anthony Towns. I know, it's crazy, right? They traded a really good talent, right, in Julius Randle, and they bring in Cat, and it really just hasn't been great. He's a non-factor at the end of games because of poor defensive play. A little bit of trouble within the locker room. You saw some of that kind of play out in the last couple of months. Is getting rid of Tibbs for Mike Brown going to pan out? Questions about Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart has made some statements out in the media. And look, the team's good. They have good players. OG Anunoby is fantastic. Jalen Brunson is as clutch as they come. And some of those guys, like sometimes you see Landry Shamet having good games, and they're a good team. I'm not sold on this particular team being better than last year's team, let alone, make the call to have the Knicks go into the finals. I don't think so. In fact, this year, depending, I could see the Cavs finishing ahead of the Knicks. And I'm not going off of previous. This has nothing to do with the years past. This has to do with the way that these teams are constructed and who their coaches are, right? And kind of who their identity seems like they might be. But I kind of view the Knicks and the Cavs in a similar way. I think they're kind of similar in terms of my expectations. The top two teams in the East are clearly the Pistons and the Celtics. The Celtics are the surprise. I had the Celtics being like a top 6 or top 5 team. I thought their upside was maybe top 4. I thought the best they could finish is top 3. They might finish a top 2 team. I think just the fact that Jaylen Brown has been so good, and a guy like Peyton Pritchard and Derek White taking on bigger roles for this team, I think, when I look at the coaching of Boston, I think they've done a great job too, with Joe Mazzulla. And look, they were supposed to fall off much worse than this. They reconstructed the roster, they got rid of some contracts, moved on from some guys, and somehow, some way, this team is 35-19. And I think because of a very much an MVP-like performance so far from Jaylen Brown, who nobody talks about. Nobody talks about this guy. Everybody got everything to say about Lakers players who are always injured and don't play. Everybody got so much to say about Wemby, injured. Everybody's got so much to say about Cooper Flag because he's a rookie. And, what's going on in New York and what's going on in Houston with KD. Do you see what's happening in Boston right here? 35-19. This team was supposed to regress. It wasn't supposed to be this good. And here they are. Celtics in second place in division or in the conference, only behind the Pistons, who I think have arrived. I think this team is real. I think they play a very sustainable form of basketball where their identity is defensive. They're consistent on that side of the floor. Offensively, they go as Cade does. Guys are knocking down shots. They're moving without the ball. They're sharing the ball. Jenkins, Jalen Duren, look at these guys. Tough as nails, Azur Thompson, all these guys that just bring this blue-collar work ethic to the floor every day. Guys ain't taking days off. Guys are playing hard. They're competing defensively, offensively. They're running up and down the floor. They have a leader. J.D. Bickerstaff is coaching them up. That is the best team in the Eastern Conference by far. And I had a delusional Knicks fan telling me I was crazy, talking about how the Pistons were better than the Knicks. What games are you watching? Do you watch the New York Knicks play basketball? Some games are good and some games they're not. They're inconsistent. The Pistons are 40-13, leading the conference by 6 games. That's consistency, night in and night out, and they're blowing teams out sometimes. So I'm going to make a separate video for the Western Conference, but I think the real contenders out of the East, obviously, to me, it's the Pistons and the Celtics. I put them in their own tier. And then I think it's like the Knicks and the Cavs. And maybe we'll squeeze in the Raptors, but they don't have experience. The Cavs don't have much experience winning either, right? The Knicks, they made a good run last year, but I don't think this is the same team. It definitely isn't the same, personality or characteristics of the team from last year. The magic isn't the same as it was before. Anyways, I don't consider anybody else a legitimate threat to come out of the East. I think those are the favorites to make any noise in the playoffs. What do you guys think? Rest of the year outlook and the playoffs. Let me know what you guys think. Drop me some comments. Like, share, and subscribe. Check out some more of our content. We'll see you guys soon on the next one.